Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural podcast or the inaugural episode of the Common Sense Catechist. That is me. And these series of videos are going to be about the things that I'm passionate about. Being a teacher for over 27 years, there's a lot I have to be passionate about. And as a catechist, it's the idea that we push forward and teach those things of the Spirit. Of course, I'm unapologetically a Roman Catholic, and I believe that all of education is tied to that because, of course, without God, without the sensia, where we get the word science from, the knowledge of the things that we know come through Him. So even though I've been working in public schools for the past 25 years or so, I want to, in this channel and podcast, to allow you to get some insights into some of those subjects. I've been homeschooling for the past probably 18 years now and understanding the two sides of the coin, but talking about the things that I'm passionate about, talking about the things that I can bring forth in a way, especially to students. So this is for students and parents alike, and we'll do this in different episodes in different topics, and they'll vary from all over the place. But being common sense, putting things down at a level that we can all understand. We have people out there who are those motivational speakers, which all a motivational speaker is packaging something that we already know in just a different way. And people saying, wow, I love that. The self-help industry is worth billions of dollars, and yet our self-help is, of course, only found in the Lord. It's simple. I'll save you a lot of money. However, the passion that we can have for different elements of knowledge, from sensia, from literature to history to music to of course, the faith as well. But even something simple as driving. One of the things I've been doing for the past 23 years has been a driving behind the wheel instructor, and absolutely found so many lessons to help students get about that as well. So hopefully you'll find this interesting as well and find some things that you can use in your daily life. First thing I want to talk about today, something I'm doing right now with some of my students, and that is storytelling, telling that story, telling your story. And there are 4 C's in storytelling. One is the characters. Got to have great characters. Got to know where your characters are coming from. The second one is conflict. Life is conflict. Buddha once said, life is suffering. And not that I would find wisdom in some Buddhist sayings, but if we look at that, it can be suffering, of course, and it can be difficult. So we got to have conflict. It's part of our life. I mean, think of each and every day, that idea of our respiration and the inspiration, even giving of our breath. When someone passes away, it's literally almost drowning in air, and they give out their last breath, and it's that struggle that we see. And each and every day, whether that's going across the street and getting hit by a bus, or having some kind of disease or something of that nature, it is going to be a struggle, and that's okay as long as we know what the fight is all about. So we got to have conflict in our story, okay? The third thing we need, of course, is context. We got to have that idea of context. What is this about? Where does it fit in? And how does this story work? Okay? And I want you to think about that for your life. Okay? So students, you're out there and you're like, get that assignment. I got to write a story. If you can remember these 4 C's, you're going to be really much further ahead than your peers. So often we say, hey, write about this. And where do I start? I have writer's block. I finished a novel recently called Twinning, The Art of Making God Laugh, and it'll be published soon. And it chronicled the journey of myself and my twin brother as he was going through stage 4 cancer. And for a while I put it on the shelf and thought, what am I going to do with this? But it's interesting because one of the things we understand is if we have a goal in mind, a place to go, then we can reach that. Many writers, by the way, write backwards. Steve Jobs once famously said in his commencement speech at Harvard, excuse me, not Harvard, but Stanford. And he said, remember, you can't connect the dots by looking forward. You can only do it by looking back. And I thought, how profound is that? How profound that we can see that now this makes sense as I put the dots together. But as a writer, think about that. Get to the end. Where do I want to be? What do I want to look at? And I see that picture, and many authors do this, and then we go back. How did I get there? This makes your writing really honest in the sense of, oh yeah, that makes sense. We can think even of Poe, Poe, who of course is the father of the detective novel in The Murders at Rue Morgue, putting together those things and saying, hey, this is how this all comes together, but by going to the end and then working those things out. Now, how profound, not only for our story, but our story of life. I mean, where is our ending? If we want to end up as holy people, sanctified, separated, being good spouses, good parents, good friends, we see that ending. How do we get there? So we can apply that. And of course, our ultimate goal for us, of course, as Christians is heaven. So we look at that end goal. Now we can go back and put those pieces together because that's where we want to be, right? So we look at the end part in mind, and then we start to connect those dots. And I hope that's what you can do throughout this channel as well. Start connecting the dots in your life and then seeing where that leads. And hopefully you'll make those connections. I'm all about connections. In my time of teaching, it was always something that I prided myself on is they call it bird walking, but I'll never forget, even in my student teaching, my advisor said, I don't know how good you're going to be as a teacher, but boy, can you bird walk? And at first I was like, bird walk? What does that mean? And it was just a term, a teaching term that just means that you walk around the subject until you hit it. And I thought, yeah, but that's how we learn. Nobody wants to be preached to. Although, let's be honest, all of our stories are being preached to. They're a sermon, but they're couched in a story that we want to hear, and we get invested into these characters. Okay, so our 3 C's so far. We've got our character, we've got our conflict, we've got our context, putting those things together. And so once we look at that, we can then craft that story. We can craft that that piece of writing, whatever it happens to be. But that final C in your story of life and the story that you're writing is change. We've got to see, how do we change? Now, of course, we want to affect others. Our readers, we want our readers to change a little bit. When my brother told me, hey, I want you to write this novel and just put down these words as I go through this. And so as his twin, I did the side of watching somebody go through this, where, of course, he talked about the suffering through. And I remember him saying, if I can just help one person, just one person. As a matter of fact, that's what got it off the shelf for me. I completed it on January 6th of 2021, and then left it for a while until the birth of my 8th son, and named him after my brother. And then I was like, I got to do something with this. If I can even help one person to make that change. Again, we talk about, and we say this to students all the time, you're supposed to change the world, change the world. You can't do that. Jesus can only do that. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. And that's a lot to put on your shoulders. Why would you want to do that? It's not up to you to do that. But what we can do is we can help others to reflect and maybe make them make that change. So in our stories, we want to have that 4th C, a change. We want to see a change in our character. We started here, we end here. All right? So there again goes that backtracking. We can't connect the dots going forward, but we can going back. We can look at it and go, okay, what got me here? Where was that switch? Where was that change? Charles Dickens, one of the greatest novelists, truly believed in that change. If we look at Oliver Twist, if we look at Nicholas Nickleby, as well as Christmas Carol and A Tale of Two Cities, you get to the end. If you read A Tale of Two Cities, you see at that beautiful ending how the switch occurs, and here is this guy, this drunkard, this selfish, evil person who at the end gives up his own life for his friend or even somebody he hasn't even met. And yet here he is, espousing the words of Scripture as he's about to have his head cut off, saying it's a far better thing than I have ever done. It's a far better place that I go to. So knowing that ending, and in his case, of course, it was heaven. And Dickens truly believed that, but he wanted to chronicle what made that change. So in your stories, you got to do the same thing. What makes that change? So these 4 C's, for writers who are trying to do a story of some kind, for students who are struggling with this, if you can remember those 4 C's, not only in the writing of your stories, but also in the writing of your story, your life. Where do I want to be? Where do I want to end up? And then we can go back and start to see that and connect the dots, not going forward, but going back. Well, I hope this original episode, this first episode, is something you might take and get something out of it so that you can make the change. This is the Common Sense Catechist. God bless you and love you.